I want to take a moment to talk about the schedule for preparing bread. I have a couple of flyers that I've created that will go with the rest of the materials that I'm sending to most of you. And one of them is a calendar entry. You can see up there, some dates, they're random dates, and you can see what looks like a series of steps right here. And then this last step goes into the next day and on like that. So that's a visual representation. This last step over here on the third day is when we make the bread. I also have this printout here. It shows a 3-day process. Let's go through that process. On day 1, we're going to start working with the starter. You take it out of the refrigerator and you do the first feeding, which we'll show you in the movie. And that feeding will be at 10 a.m. in the morning. It will last for 2 hours. Once you prepare the starter, you'll let it sit in the box for 4 hours until you do the next feeding. So that starts at 10 in the morning, and we've planned to use 5 grams of starter, 5 grams of water, and 5 grams of flour for that feeding. Next at 2 p.m., which is 4 hours later, we have the next feeding, and that's also what they call a 1-to-1-to-1 feeding, except it's going to be a larger amount. I have written here 10 grams of starter, flour, and water. But honestly, there's probably only going to be maybe a total of 15 grams in the jar anyway from the 10 a.m. one. You might as well just find out what weight is in that jar and then just do that. So it might be 15 grams to 15 grams to 15 grams. The next feeding is at 6 p.m. I have it here at 25 grams, 1-to-1-to-1. So that's 25 grams of starter, 25 grams of flour, and 25 grams of water. And you let that sit in your box until 11 p.m. Now at 11, you're going to do the final feeding. And in this one I have, and you want to pretty much stay by this, 20 grams of starter to 60 grams of water and 60 grams of flour. Just to be clear about that, if you do that, you're going to get something that will take all night before it finally comes up, because it's so little starter in there. And that's the whole idea. The whole idea with that last feeding is to let you go get some sleep. And when you wake up in the morning, you may notice that it didn't go up enough. It should go up. It's a 3-to-1 mix. It should go up 3 times the size of the original amount in there. And if it didn't, you might want to go, because you're not going to let that proof in the box. You're going to let that proof at room temperature, because you don't want it to overproof overnight. So that next morning you're going to take it out. You'll probably see, and we'll see that it didn't go high enough. So at 7 in the morning, I stuck it in the proofing box and let the temperature go up and set it there for about an hour. So although this says that we're going to be done at 7 in the morning, and this kind of indicates the same thing, but I know it's very hard for you to read it. But let me give you a closer look at these things. Yeah, I don't think this camera can support it. You can still see this document. The odds are, you're probably not going to be done getting the starter ready until 8 in the morning. So as you see here on the schedule, day 2, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., prepare the dough. that's an estimate. In our case, it'll be like 8 o'clock. And it does look at something like that, like you're going to be busy for a long time. But that's just not true. The actual process of making the bread is sitting around and waiting. Most of this process here is sitting around and waiting. And every half hour, maybe 3 hours, depending upon where you are in the process, you're going to have to go back in the kitchen. You're going to have to do some little thing, and then put the cover back on it and go do it some more. So you do that, and at the end of this time, you put the bread in the refrigerator ready for the next day. It needs to sit in the refrigerator for 24 hours. On day 3, the next day, you're going to be baking bread. You started here, and you're baking bread 3 days later. 2 days later from when you start. You can see this here. This is where you first started making starter. Is that backwards? Yeah. This is when you first started making dough out of it, and this is when you make the bread. One thing I did not mention, or I'm not going to show in the videos, is what to do with the discard. And what that is the leftover starter. As you start working with this starter in this schedule, you're going to end up not needing it all. What you want to do is take what you don't need and put it in a jar, and then the next time you do another feeding, if you have any left over from that feeding, put that in the same jar until when you're done putting all your leftover starter in a jar, you'll now have new starter for the next time you make the bread. At that point, you can go back in the fridge and yank out the old jar that you used to make this and wash it away in the sink and put the new jar in the refrigerator. You'll never need to have more than 1 jar of starter in the refrigerator at any time. I've never lost the starter. I think I mentioned that in the main video. Anyway, that's it. I think we should, I'm not sure what we're going to do next. Well, let's see how the video works out. So now we're going to make bread. It's 2 days before we start baking, and it is 9 in the morning. We actually, the first thing we do is we get the sourdough starter cranked up and ready to make bread with. And we're going to be working on that today. Tomorrow, we're going to actually work the bread, and the day after, we're going to bake it. So, to get the starter going at 9 in the morning, I take it out of the refrigerator and let it sit for an hour just to get a little bit more liquid in there. We don't actually start feeding the starter until 10 in the morning. But that's the first step. If you don't remember to do this step and you just take the starter out of the refrigerator at 10, that's fine. It's just easier to take it out at 9 and let it get to room temperature. See you at 10 o'clock. So it's 10 a.m. and it's time to start working the starter and feeding it. We're going to, the final goal is to have at least 100 grams of active starter tomorrow morning when we make the bread. And we're going to start with 5 grams from our supply from the refrigerator from last night. And to do this, we take a new jar, we put it on there, and we put our paddle inside of it so that when we tear the scale, it's zeroed out with the spatula in it. We're looking to get 5 grams of starter, 5 grams of flour, and 5 grams of water. I'm putting those over here. So first, let's try and get 5 grams of starter. Well, it's still at 0. Okay, we need a lot more. That's 6 grams. That's close enough. We'll do 6 grams. So now we add to that 6 grams of water. This water has been run through a Brita filter. And I mix it up. Let's see if you can see it. So it's pretty much liquid in there. If you can see in there. Pretty much liquid in there. And now I'm going to add 6 grams of flour. Tare it. There it is, 6 grams of flour. We mix that up. There, it's all mixed up. Now I just scrape it off the sides. So it's a little pile in the middle. Some people like to put a rubber band on there to mark where it's at. You want to cover it loosely with a lid of some kind. I have actually a cloth lid, which doesn't need to be loose because it lets air in. We're going to take this and we're going to let this sit in our proofing box. So we put it in the proofing box. For 4 hours until 2 o'clock. And it'll be set up to 80 degrees. There you go. See you at 2 o'clock. It's 2 o'clock. And it's time to take a look and refeed the starter. I can see it's come up just a little bit. It was very small. Now it's kind of filled out. Let's go in and feed it. All right, so on the schedule it says that the first time we did this, we made 1 to 1 to 1 with 5 grams. And it says on the schedule the second time we should do 10 to 10 to 10. So that's 1 to 1 to 1 really, at 10 grams. We could do that, but seeing that it's come up a little bit, I'd like to see how much we have in here. Easiest way to do that is just put an empty jar there. And then, so there's 20 grams in there. I think there's no harm in just doing 20, 20, 20. Because in the end, we're going to end up making, well over 100 grams in the end. So when we do 20, 20, 20, which is 1 to 1, that'll give us 60 grams of starter. So let's do that. We're going to do 20, 20, 20. So we got 20 grams. This, by the way, saves us from having to make a new jar up for the next one. So we tare it, mix the water next. 21 grams, that's close. It's pretty liquid now. And we're going to add 20 grams of flour now. So I'll tear that. Mix it up real good. Okay, then that's mixed up well. Now I just really give it a grind. And then I scrape it off the sides like this. And again, I have a pile in there. It's a little bigger than the last pile, obviously. It's 60 gram pile. You can see on the side what it looks like, especially here. We're going to cover this, and we're going to put this in the proofing box. Actually, no, this time we're going to use the oven. I had tested and saw that by turning the light on in my oven, that the temperature in there was about 80 degrees. So we can use this oven as a proofing box. Just with the light turned on, put that in there, and we're done. We wait until 6 o'clock and we're going to do another feeding. It's 6 o'clock and it's time to get another check on our starter here. Looks like it's come up as it should have. It says that we're supposed to do 25, 25, 25 grams, which is, a 1 to 1 to 1. But let's take a look here. Here, let me adjust this a little bit. Let's take a look here and see how much we have. We've got 54. All right, so we're going to put it over into here. So we'll weigh this down and get so that's 20 grams. $27 grams, good enough. All right, so we'll add 27 grams of water. Mix it up. and then 27 grams of flour. By the way, I use bread flour for the starter, which is also what I use to make the bread. White bread flour. King Arthur white bread flour. So you mix that up. Now that's mixed up good. You cover it. And we put that in the oven until 11 o'clock. It's 11 p.m. and our starter has been sitting around for 5 hours. What do we got here? You can see that starter really rose well. Now we're going to do our last feeding before tomorrow morning when we make the bread. I'm going to put in about 25 grams of starter. And I'm going to mix it with 60 grams of water and 60 grams of flour. That is about a 1 to 3 to 3. I might just do 20. So we're going to need a bigger jar for this. So first we'll put this starter in there. Oh yeah, this is really active. I don't know if you can see that. It's pretty bubbly in there. Here's 19. I gotta grab a knife. Let's get a little more. $28, a little too much. $23, that's good. Now, for the record, I'm just going to take what's left over and I'm going to put that in the refrigerator for the next time we make bread. And I'll throw away what's left in the refrigerator if there's any there. So let's add 60 grams of water. There's my knife. Yeah. Now it's all liquid. Good. Okay, let's add 60 grams of flour. And you do the math. 60 plus 60 is 120 plus 23. So there'll be 140. Here, let's share that. There'll be over 140 grams of starter tomorrow morning. And we'll need 100 grams of it for the bread. The rest, you can save that for the next time you make bread too. Just add it to this. And that's 60 grams. Mix it up. Okay, let me scrape it off the sides. Makes it easier to see. There we go. Now, tomorrow morning, it's going to be good to have a feel for how much it went up. So you could use a rubber band or a marking pen and kind of put a rough mark of where that is. The other thing to note is we're not going to put this in the proofing box. We're actually just going to let it sit on the counter. The reason why is because I want to make sure it's a little bit slower than usual, because my goal is to get some sleep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wake up in the morning, and I'm probably going to see where this stands, and then I'll probably put it back in the proofing box maybe for an hour. We'll see. And then we'll be done and we'll start making bread. So leave it out overnight so it won't over ripen or before you wake up in the morning. And that's it. Next time I talk to you, we'll be getting ready to make bread. It's 7 a.m. It looks like this starter has doubled. Um, 70 degrees. Not really warm enough to do what I prefer. So I'm going to give this about an hour in the proofing box, and it'll get up even higher.